Aloha, I'm Jeff Warwick, a writer, director, and producer based in Honolulu, and I wanted to share a little bit about our journey of learning Davinci Resolve as Final Cut Pro users. For some background, I personally used to edit on Adobe Premiere way back in the day, then used Final Cut 6 and 7, which I absolutely loved. Then when it switched to Final Cut 10, I tried it, I kind of hated it. Went back to Premiere, but that program is so buggy. So I went back to Final Cut Pro 10, and I've learned to love it. It's not perfect, but it does two things incredibly well. One, it edits extremely fast, both in terms of like responsiveness and rendering, but also in terms of accomplishing the same edit operation versus traditional editors like Davinci Resolve and Premiere. Plus, the multicam editing in Final Cut Pro 10 is just incredibly robust and reliable. They've had multicam editing, I think, since Final Cut 6, which is, I don't even know how many years now, 12, 15 years old. The reason while we're looking at Davinci is because we shot a feature film in B-Raw, and we thought we could use the B-Raw Toolbox plugin for Final Cut Pro 10, but the B-Raw Toolbox plugin is too slow to use on that large of a project. Just as a side note, when I was learning Davinci Resolve, or all of us here, we tried to use the built-in keyboard customizations that Davinci resolves for Final Cut Pro users, but honestly, none of them really worked how it works in Final Cut. So we just figured, okay, screw that. We'll just use the default Davinci keyboard shortcuts. I kind of actually just recommend that for anybody that is potentially switching over. So first, let's talk about the pros of Davinci Resolve. Number one, the color correction tools are world class, just hands down. Davinci is being used to color correct some of the biggest, most beautiful movies in the world, and it shows. Like, the tools are amazing. Another pro is having native support for B-Raw. It's awesome. It's also very smooth editing and very easy to edit B-Raw in Davinci Resolve. Next, Fairlight is amazing. For Final Cut Pro users, Fairlight is the audio editing workstation built right into Davinci Resolve. For old school folks, it's like Soundtrack Pro from the old Final Cut Studio, or Fairlight similar to Logic Pro, but with a focus on sound for film and video because it's built right in. So you can do things like automatic audio ducking, which basically will listen to one dialogue track or a group of dialogue tracks and then automatically lower the volume of a music track based on the volume of the dialogue tracks that it was listening to. It's amazing. Just check it out. It's been in the industry for years, but it's just not been in Final Cut Pro. Also, for audio, track-based workflows are a lot easier to use than the connected clips and rolls in Final Cut. In my opinion, there's a lot more work that needs to be done in Final Cut to keep the different types of audio organized by roles. So, whether you have like sound effects, music, dialogue, etc. I think it's just a little bit easier to keep it more organized in Davinci or in a track-based workflow than in the roles-based. I get it. Final Cut's trying to be super innovative. That's awesome, but I don't think it works as good right now. Hopefully they can improve it, but they're kind of slow to improve. Anyway, let's keep going. Another pro is that Davinci Resolve includes Fusion. Fusion is a compositing software similar to After Effects or Apple Motion and Nuke. Now, I'm not an expert in compositing at all, but according to Corridor Crew and Corridor Digital, which they are compositing experts and visual effects experts, they say Fusion's awesome, and the things that they would typically use After Effects for, they are now using Fusion for a variety of reasons. So number one, because of nodes, also the stability / reliability of Fusion and Davinci as a whole, and then also the cost. So for us, we've also been learning Fusion, but we're still really new to compositing, but it seems cool, and I've finally kind of wrapped my head around nodes. So whether it's in Fusion or in the color grading tools within DaVinci Resolve, think of nodes as like layers or connected clips within Final Cut Pro. Maybe that makes sense. If not, let me know in the comments. I'll make a video on it. Another great thing about DaVinci Resolve is the cost. The free version of DaVinci Resolve is incredibly robust. Like, it doesn't make sense how robust it is, which is great. I'm not complaining, don't get me wrong. And Blackmagic gives 2 free licenses with many of the Blackmagic cameras. I think the only cameras it doesn't give the license to, and I could be wrong on this, are like the studio cameras. But if you're buying any of the other cameras, it comes with 2 licenses for DaVinci Resolve, which is amazing. And then if you need to buy DaVinci Resolve for whatever reason, there's just a one-time fee of $300, which compared to Adobe, like, you will pay that off like within I think a year. Anyway, you'll pay it off really quick, depending on which package you get for compared to Adobe. And then it's if you add up the different pieces of software and the different plugins that you would need to get for Final Cut Pro 10, DaVinci Resolve is actually cheaper. Kind of. Final Cut Pro 10, one benefit is if you have a bunch of machines, you can actually install it like on a bunch of machines. I don't know. They don't say that. I don't know of any kind of limit. If there is, I'm unaware of it, and we haven't reached it. So there's that. Don't change that, Apple. Keep it installable on as many machines as you can that you own legit and that are yours. Absolutely. But yeah. Now, other great pros for DaVinci Resolve is that there are tons of AI features in the paid version. So there's this feature called speech-to-text transcription and built-in text-based editing, which both are amazing. The speech-to-text transcription basically can transcribe whatever dialogue is being said in the videos, which is amazing. And I'm going to get ranting on that in just a bit here. And then there's the text-based editing where you can take the transcription and just edit based on the text itself. It's pretty amazing. It's pretty awesome. In addition, DaVinci can also automatically create subtitles. Fantastic. So if Apple, if you're listening, please incorporate this and all the other AI features into Final Cut Pro 10. But especially the text ones. Siri's already built into Mac OS, so I just don't understand why that technology can't be incorporated into Final Cut to do transcriptions and editing by text, as well as like closed captions and titling and that kind of thing. Other AI features that DaVinci Resolve that I think are pretty awesome. Scene cut detection, which will automatically take a finished edited clip and cut it up based on what it thinks are different scenes. This can be really useful if you get a finished clip from a client, as an example, and then you just need kind of pieces of it, so it'll chop it up automatically for you. DaVinci also has Magic Mask tool, which is an amazing masking tool that basically does magical rotoscoping like practically in an instant. Depth map is an advanced form of masking to help with color grading. DaVinci also has voice isolation and a built-in dialogue leveler. Other AI features are face refinement tool to help beautify people's faces. It also has a tool called FX Relight where you can pretty much kind of like relight a scene. I mean, it's amazing, but it's not going to do everything, but it's still amazing. There are other tools like object removal, atmospheric simulation, and smart reframes. So the smart reframes for like TikToks and vertical stuff and whatnot. So all really amazing tools that for the most part, except for a couple, are not really in Final Cut Pro 10. Now let's talk about some of the cons, or at least the things that I've found that I think could use some improvement. So DaVinci is extremely powerful with tons and tons of amazing features, but here are the cons and my suggested improvements. First, or maybe in not any kind of particular order, can you add the ability to turn on zooming in and out on the timeline on the cut page, ideally using Command plus and minus on the keyboard. Also, please add the ability to turn on and off the mini timeline on the cut page in order to save space on the screen. You can do that already on the color page. Please just add that on the cut page. Make clicking and dragging a clip swap clips by default rather than overwrite. If you want to overwrite by clicking and dragging, then normally you'd use a different tool like the position tool in Final Cut or some sort of keyboard modifier like pressing shift while dragging. Because I think it's very rare that you will drag a clip and want to overwrite another clip. To me, that's too delicate an operation to want to overwrite that way. If you want to overwrite, you will usually do it in a more refined way, like using a combination of your playhead and timeline indicator to get the overwrite in the exact correct spot. But, you know, if you pick up just some random clip and drag it somewhere else, usually you want to swap places with another clip, or maybe you want to squeeze it in somewhere else on the timeline. This is something that Final Cut does extremely well. And I think the cut page on Davinci is trying to emulate this. So you're close, but man, it's not anywhere near what it needs to be. So my suggestion is create smoother and more obvious animations in the cut page that show where the clips are moving. And then again, get rid of the overwrite feature even as an option by default. Like if you want to do overwrite, then like force us to press shift on the keyboard to then overwrite. The animations and sort of the swapping of the clips automatically gives the editor more confidence that the operation was correct and did not overwrite any frames. Here's the thing, Davinci can do this exact behavior in terms of like making the animations look very clean and very obvious of what's happening. And where this is in Davinci is not really in the editing operations per se, but when you're rearranging timelines, when using stacked timelines on the edit page, those animations are like the exact behavior that we need on the cut page. So please bring these animations to the cut page. Okay, enough of that. The close-up feature is amazing, is great in Davinci Resolve, but there needs to be a keyboard shortcut for it. So please add that. And speaking of shortcuts, on the cut page and anywhere else for that matter, on hover on each of the buttons in the interface, please show us the keyboard shortcut after the name of the tool. You do that already on like the edit page and Fairlight, but it's missing in on the cut page. And then please add skimming of the media pool and timelines like everywhere. So what skimming is like you can, right now what you have to do to like kind of preview a clip is you have to like kind of click and drag. So please, no clicking and dragging. For clarification, add skipping in addition to the scrubbing that you already have. That's fine. But like give us the choice to skim. And skim everywhere, like in the media pool, in the timeline, because you'd be amazed at how much time this saves. And this saves like your wrist, like you're not like having to just like click and drag all the time. On all the pages, but especially the multicam sync page, make the video and audio tracks have alternating shades of gray. Plus, make the column with the angle name and like kind of all the information match the shading of that corresponding track. So each track is one continuous shade, including the information column. This will make it faster to see which track is which. Right now, it's kind of annoying, and it should only be a quick glance. But now it takes you look at it once, you got to double check, and so on. So alternating shades of gray, please. And then if we are in the multicam viewer mode in the preview window, please leave it on multicam viewer so we don't have to keep clicking it in order to see it in the preview pane. Because like right now, if we click to some other timeline or we got to click somewhere else, like go into the multicam, wherever, if we got to go click somewhere else, it reverts the preview pane to like just some other mode. And that's crazy annoying when we're editing in multicams, because you just have to like go back and click it, or at the very least have switching back into multicam mode, like multicam viewer mode there, some sort of keyboard shortcut, Command-Shift-7 on Final Cut Pro 10, or something similar, whatever it is, I'll go learn it. Just, man, please add that. And then in multicams too, like, if we change both the audio and video in multicam on the same cut line, why can't we delete that clip? The audio remains linked kind of to like the rest of the stuff. I get that you want to keep stuff linked, but in multicam stuff, like if we're changing audio and stuff around, like keep the, it's just annoying. Like the way how it keeps, you know, like the first and third clips like all linked together. Oh man, just like clip them all the way down. Kind of annoying. Another thing then, in the multicam page, allow us to move the order of the tracks in the timeline itself instead of having to use the index. So hopefully this is simple. It seems simple enough. Just add like a little icon, like a little burger icon that Final Cut uses, or any other kind of icon in the far left column next to the track number, that we can just click and drag the whole track anywhere up and down in the timelines. Another suggestion is to allow us to click anywhere in the timeline to move the timeline indicator, not just the very top bar. Once you get used to that in Final Cut Pro, like, it is a huge time saver, and like, because you don't have to be so accurate as to where you click when you want to move that timeline indicator, you can kind of just click anywhere where there's like free space. Also, please add the range selection tool from Fairlight to the edit and cut pages, and maybe anywhere else. Dude, range select is so useful and powerful. Like in Fairlight, you guys already know what it can do. You range select, you can drag to make 4 keyframes and adjust like a, you know, easing in and out of those keyframes. Please give us that in the edit and cut pages, and anywhere else. I would guess if it works in the color correction page and like we need to just select a range and a color correct in there, add it there too, please. Please allow us to see the source monitor, the timeline monitor, and the inspector at the same time. Because like right now we can see the source monitor, the timeline, and media pool. Please allow us to see the source monitor, the timeline monitor, and the inspector at the same time. Right now we can see the source monitor, the timeline monitor, and the media pool. So there's room to do it if we turn off the media pool. And then if we can see those 3 things, the source monitor, the timeline monitor, and the inspector, this is extremely useful for multicam editing. Another suggestion is if you click a clip, please give us the duration of that clip. Maybe display that clip duration next to the total duration, followed by a slash to separate them. This is helpful in a ton of scenarios. Please have a better way to render. For render in place, I don't want to go through dialog boxes multiple times. Just have it set as a preference we can change, or a do not ask checkbox again. We're trying to save time, not keep filling out forms. And or make smart rendering way better. For me personally, I'm okay with huge cached files if I want it. I would rather have huge cache files that I can purge later than having slow performance. I get that not everyone wants this, so go ahead and make this a choice in preferences. Now regarding Fusion, if I have a Fusion title on the edit page, I cannot access the keyframe editor on the edit page. Ideally, please add access to that on the edit page for Fusion titles. As a broad suggestion, doing simple animations of like changing position of a Fusion comp is really slow on the edit page. It's slow to render, slow to execute, even on a kind of a fast computer like a Mac Studio. Another broad note, basically make the cut page as close to Final Cut Pro 10 as possible with your enhancements. I mean, it's kind of obvious what you guys are doing, so just like go all out, do it, go for it. So those are my current suggestions. And here are my final thoughts. Davinci Resolve is super powerful, but two parts are, in particular, much clunkier compared to Final Cut Pro. The cut page and multicam functionality are clunkier in Davinci Resolve than in Final Cut Pro. Final Cut Pro uses way less clicks to do the same editing operations. Once you get used to editing with fewer clicks, and then you go back to the traditional way, it's frustrating because you know there's a faster way, more fluid way that takes way less clicks to do the same exact thing. But with that said, I think Davinci Resolve can get there. I think Davinci Resolve could potentially be the perfect editing system. It seems like they're working hard to become the best editing software in the world. And I think if they add the features that I requested to the cut and or edit pages, it would help a lot. Overall, we are adding Davinci Resolve to our tool belt for sure. I think for large complicated projects like feature films, we'll definitely be using Davinci Resolve. For any kind of documentary style shoot with interviews, we'll also use Davinci Resolve. And for any kind of compositing and major color correction, we'll be using Davinci Resolve. I guess in our case, the only projects we will use Final Cut Pro will be for simple, extremely fast turnaround projects. Though, I would still recommend Final Cut Pro to non-professional editors. For creators that don't have aspirations of editing beyond their own content, Final Cut Pro is incredibly intuitive, affordable, fast, and awesome. Final Cut Pro is a great tool for telling your story without the software getting in the way. Honestly, the learning curve for Davinci Resolve is really high. So for that, I will definitely be recommending Final Cut Pro for these kinds of users. In addition, doing simple titles, graphics, simple animations, honestly, it's just way easier in Final Cut Pro. If Davinci makes their cut page as good or better than Final Cut Pro, maybe I'll change my recommendation, or most likely I'll change my recommendation for that kind of creator. And then for Adobe Premiere users, as a old school former user of Adobe Premiere, dude, switch to Davinci Resolve already. Save yourself the money and move to a better and less expensive tool. Davinci's amazing. It's awesome. And folks that are editing extremely complicated projects like features, then I think Davinci is a great tool with room for improvement. So that's it. I know it's a long video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say. And if you stayed this long, thank you. I really appreciate it. I hope it was helpful. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments there. And consider subscribing. And I'll see you guys next time. Thank you. Bye. Get out of here. Okay, that's it. I'll see you. Bye. Subscribe maybe? Okay.